You know, healthcare is the hot issue right now, but it's a piece of a larger issue, which is the state of our economy. Welcome back to the second hour of our program. Tom Hartman here with you. The state of our economy is an absolute wreck. And it's a wreck because it was wrecked. It was wrecked by a combination of an ideology gone nuts, run wild. Ayn Rand, this woman, actually it's not even her real name, she was a Russian emigre. Her father was a pharmacist in 18, the Russian Revolution, whenever the Russian Revolution was, and lost his pharmacy to the Bolsheviks, the Bolshevik Revolution, and lost, his wealth. She grew up in Russia. She studied political science in Kiev. She came to the United States in the 1950s. And in Russia, she was taught in college that communism was both an economic and political system. So when she got to the United States, she assumed that capitalism was both an economic and a political system. It's not. It's an economic system. Our political system is a constitutionally limited, representative, democratic republic. She didn't get that. And she started promoting, she wrote this bizarre novel, Atlas Shrugged, in which the CEOs basically go on strike because the government bureaucrats are too lazy. Believe it or not, you can find the Cliff Notes version. In fact, one of the guys from AynRand.org wrote the Cliff Notes version. And started this whole objectivist movement. You've got that, plus you've got Milton Friedman saying that and Alan Greenspan, of course, was not only a student of Friedman's, but also was inducted into Ayn Rand's cult in the 1960s in her apartment in New York City, brought a dollar bill-shaped wreath of flowers to her funeral. They had this belief that because money can move very, very rapidly in marketplaces, that marketplaces will always have an intuitive intelligence that will be greater than that of any government or bureaucracy. Well, okay. But then they they extended that logic to say, therefore, there should be no government or bureaucracy that is interfering, in quotes, in the marketplace. The fact of the matter is, though, that interference is certainly, you don't want government setting prices or trying to control of course not. But the marketplace is like a football game. You've got to define where the goalposts are. You've got to define how many downs you get. You've got to define how many yards you have to get a first down. You've got to define how many people can be on each team. You've got to define what's legal and illegal behavior. And you've got to have somebody enforcing those rules. You've got to have referees. But the laissez-faire capitalists, the Ayn Rands of the world, the Milton Friedmans of the world say, and ultimately the Tom Friedmans and the Bill Clintons of the world with international global so-called free trade say, no. Let's just do away with all that stuff. Let's not have any rules at all. And so that's the direction that the United Kingdom went under Margaret Thatcher and the United States went under Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. We took a giant left turn, or giant right turn actually, off the traditional trajectory of both of our nations, and other nations of Europe did not. And we learned in the news this morning, in the overnight news coming in from Europe and here in the United States. And, this is just startling. Financial Times reporting. U.S. retail sales down 0.1% from July to June. Analysts were estimating 0.8% increase. It's down 0.1%. That includes all the cash for clunker stimulus. You pull that out, we're down 0.6%. So they were expecting that we'd go up. We didn't. We went down. Jobless claims. Initial weekly jobless claims unexpectedly ticked up in July to 558,000 for the week ending August 8th. Last week they were down to just 550,000. Isn't that encouraging? The reason why jobless claims, by the way, are not 600 or 800,000 like they were before, well, the decrease is caused, the Financial Times writes, this is Simon Barabow in New York, writing for the Financial Times, the decrease is caused by people exhausting their benefits rather than an involvement in the labor market. In other words, people aren't getting jobs. They just are no longer being paid unemployment benefits and are no longer called or considered or counted as unemployed. Foreclosure activity in the U.S. hit a new record in July, setting its third monthly record in 5 months. 1 out of every 355 U.S. homes in the month of July alone received a foreclosure notice. This is an increase of 77% of July over June and an increase of 32% over last year. National Association of Realtors reported that an increase in foreclosure sales led to a record 15.5% decline in median home values to $174,000. Home values are continuing to fall. It's estimated that 36% of transactions in the second quarter were distressed sales, and we're reaching the point now where at least a third and maybe as many as half of all homeowners in the United States are underwater. Now, at the same time, the Financial Times reports an unexpected rebound. Here's the headline: France and Germany return to growth. An unexpected rebound in French and German growth helped push the Eurozone to the brink of economic recovery in the second quarter, delivering a further signal that the worst of the global crisis may be coming to an end in Europe. Why? Well, they're still having a global recession. We still are having this global recession, all of us, the entire planet. Why are France and Germany not being affected by this so badly? Robust consumer and public spending, buoyed by large government stimulus programs, helped both economies grow 0.3% in April, May, and June. The overall story, bottom line of this, is that these two countries, as part of their stimulus, rather than giving hundreds of billions of dollars to bankers, are saying to employers, instead of laying somebody off, put them on half-time, and the government will pick up the salary. And during that half-time, maybe they can do something productive for your company and get ready for when you come out of this. And the bottom line is that because they're stimulating from the bottom up rather than the top down, instead of pouring trillions of dollars, now with what the Fed has done, $8 trillion, into the banks top down, and the banks, by the way, are continuing to screw us, they're doing it bottom up. They're giving the money to the average working people, and that money is moving up into the economy. Back to this piece from Bloomberg. Diane Swank, the chief economist of Chicago-based Mesirow Financial, she's quoted, "There's a whole new wave of foreclosures tied to cyclical dynamics in the economy. 247,000 job losses in July. 1/4 of U.S. mortgage holders are underwater." Bank of America, one of the banks that we bailed out, Bank of America Corp. modified 4% of its qualifying loans. Not 4% of its loans, 4% of its qualifying loans. The people who qualified to get their mortgage refinanced at Bank of America, only 4% of them were able to get it done. Wells Fargo, 6%. Why? Well, Swank says it's been more profitable to put a home in foreclosure than restructure the loan. They don't give a damn about you and me. They don't care about the average working person in this country. This laissez-faire mentality, this crazed Republican on steroids, libertarian actually on steroids mentality is destroying this country. And the free trade piece of it is a huge piece of it. Pause for a moment and look around you and see if you can see anything made in America. I'm looking into a Sony camera right now that was made in Japan. Actually, it was probably made in China. The Japanese are even outsourcing stuff. I'm looking at an Apple computer that I know was probably made overseas. The mug here on my... Actually, take a look. I got a mug with Thomas Paine on it. It was made in China. You know, the yellow highlighter I'm using does not say made in the United States. I don't know where. I mean, it's we don't make things here anymore. The way that you build an economy is by generating wealth. You don't generate wealth by selling lumber around the world, which is what we're doing, or selling grain around the world, or letting foreign companies come in and buy your mining operations in your companies. You generate wealth by manufacturing things. We used to do that in this country. Before Reagan came along, we made things in this country. We no longer make things in America. We no longer make things because people read the olive tree and the Lexus and they thought it was true, when it wasn't. Tom Friedman had it all wrong. The Lexus was a success because of government intervention by the Japanese, not laissez-faire economics. We don't make things in this country anymore because of these crazy economic policies. And until we fix them, we're still not going to get out of this hole.